Hello, my name's Phil Collinson, and I am the producer of Doctor Who.
My name is Eugene Washington, and I'm playing Mr. Wagner in this episode.
I'm Helen, Raynor, and I'm the script editor on this episode.
With a bit of a frog in her throat today, Helen,
today.
as we can hear. So here we are with a magnificent Anthony Head, and I think we filmed in 2 schools in this episode, didn't we? We did. We filmed in Fitzallen School in Cardiff for some of the exteriors, and I think this is Fitzallen School. And then we also filmed in Dufferin School, which is near Newport.
Newport, that's right.
As we'll see further in the episode, there were a couple of rooms that were very specific in the script and needed a lot more atmosphere than Dufferin, which is a very modern school, had. I love this moment.
And welcome to Deafry Vale School.
Yes.
A name I made up.
School.
I'm very proud of that one.
Did you?
Yep.
Fantastic. And this now is now Dufferin School, and we wanted this lab to feel very old and have the old desks and just have a sort of a smell about it. And our locations people found that one, and it was just perfect.
And that opening scene as well. Oh, hello. Still a bit froggy. That opening scene with the Doctor turning up as the teacher. That's something which I think Russell T has been dreaming about since he was about 9. It's something that he's finally got to see on screen.
Doctor Who would be his teacher. Best title sequence in the world. I love it. Did you used to watch Doctor Who, Eugene, when you were a kid?
I used to watch it, but I used to get scared.
You did?
Oh,
yeah, it was something about the music. It was a bit spooky.
How did it feel to be in it, then?
Unreal.
Really? Oh,
Definitely
you're
unreal.
so kind. Yeah, so it was just the kind of wood and the benches and that sort of gleam that it would get from that, really, that we wanted to.
So funny we went to 2 different schools because all the time we were writing it, we kept saying, for once, we're in a place which is just a typical school, just an average comprehensive. That'll be easy to find. And you end up having to flit between the 2 of them.
Backwards and forwards. And also bits of the exteriors were different and different bits of different exteriors we wanted.
I love Toby's writing here.
Yes, it's brilliant, isn't it? Did he used to be a teacher? Have I imagined that?
He's been many things. He used to be an actor.
Yes, he did.
But,
you can catch him in Bridget Jones, I think. I was
Really?
quite surprised
Absolutely,
to see him sat round a dinner table in Bridget Jones the other week.
What's Toby doing there? But
Toby Whithouse, the writer. I love this little boy. Look at him.
oh, he's gorgeous, isn't
They
he?
missed him when they were looking for Harry Potter. I think.
Yeah. Could have brought his own specs.
Yeah. And so it sort of slightly ended slightly differently, this episode. And we one of the scenes that we cut was, a little boy sort of ends up face down on the desk, doesn't he? He collapses.
He's kind of had a short circuit.
There's a short circuit. And then there was a scene where the doctor took him to the nurse, and the nurse grabbed him and took him into the room. And, we dropped that scene, and so the sort of end scene there didn't make any sense, so we edited slightly the end of that sequence. And, of course, then when you come in, which is about to happen, you say, oh, he's let me down. And that was why you said that.
Absolutely.
Because he'd had a little short circuit.
Short-circuited a child.
Yes.
It's funny, this is such a sort of schooly-looking episode, and it kind of, the setting sort of really defines the story, because it started out, I mean, this episode was going to be, at one point in an army base, at one point in a sinister remote village, at one point both at the same time.
Yes.
But the school setting brought so much with it.
Well, it did, and the sinister, and also
teachers
just
and
the dinner ladies and the idea of the food. And,
it's in the chips. It's in the chips.
all of
yes,
that.
yeah.
It just all came along when we decided to make it a school, didn't it?
This is Caroline Berry giving her very deadpan head dinner lady performance.
And she's Welsh, isn't she?
I believe she
Yeah,
is.
she's Welsh. She's completely
she's
putting that accent on, which is brilliant. Oh, here you come, look.
Oh, who's this handsome
Gordon
chap?
Bennett, who's that?
Goodness me. Magnificent suit.
I was just thinking, yeah.
That suit was fantastic. It took us 2 days to find that suit. Shopping
it?
all around London, trying to get it ordered in from various shops.
Fantastic, Louise Page, our costume designer.
Absolutely.
She's
She
everything
really
brilliant.
went to the hill for it.
Well, I just think it's great because I remember saying to her, I want them all to look really sharp and like they're really sort of playing teachers and enjoying the fact that they get to. No, but anybody in scruffy jeans and sneak, and t-shirt and some trainers. I think everybody, all the Quillitons should look smart.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yes.
she really pulled it out of the bag.
Yes, Toby wanted a distinction as well, which happens actually between the old teachers, the old guard, who actually look slightly, lovable and crumpled around the edges, and played by the wonderful Rod Arthur, and then the new teachers who are much more new labour, I think it said in the script.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a new labour, smooth, suave, charismatic.
So that little set there was literally one flat in the corner of our Newport studio, because we dropped this scene, the other end of the phone call with Mickey there. We dropped that scene about 3 times. We tried to film it and didn't. And in the end, we had to call Noel back in and pick that scene up right at the very end of the block. And it's literally one flat, and it's kind of amazing what you can do with lighting and lenses. It was supposed to be a cyber cafe.
Oh, that's right, yes.
I love that.
Oh, wow. That's a shriek.
She does that. I think that's hilarious. And of course, we haven't mentioned how magnificent does Billie Piper look, even in a dinner lady's
Her
costume.
finest costume.
Absolutely.
Oh, here you are. This is your best sinister acting.
This room was hot.
Was it?
Very, very hot.
Because, of course, we
of
filmed this in
electronics in it,
August,
isn't
didn't
We
we?
filmed it in
The height of
August, in the
summer.
depth of summer, but we also had to close all the windows so the air wasn't breezing into the room.
Suffocating the children.
Basically, yes.
You don't look particularly sweaty.
Oh,
Are they
believe
running in
me.
with damp cloths for you?
In between the cut,
Really?
it was interesting.
It's a great sequence.
It
It's
was.
really brilliantly edited, I think, all of this,
Definitely.
and the hands. And just makes it feel slightly epic in some mad kind of way, even though it's just some kids typing at a keyboard. Look at that smile, Theodore. He's
The
out.
music's fabulous as well, isn't it? It's like
fantastic.
The Omen. It's fantastic.
Really creates the atmosphere.
Fantastic.
And now Elizabeth Sladen.
I was always slightly disappointed in this scene because in the script he was walking along and you never saw who he was talking to. And I always remember being really disappointed when I saw this. I just would have loved it if it had been on Anthony and just a sort of a disembodied voice. And so that actually the first time we really see her
When the
is
doctor sees
when the
her.
doctor
Yes.
sees her.
Yeah.
I would have loved that. But there you go. I see what you mean about the slightly
There's the
frayed
old
around
guard.
the edges
Yes.
old guard teacher now. Brilliant.
Because he fits in perfectly in his suit, doesn't he? The
Well, I was
doctor?
about
He's
to
dressed
say
for part.
the old doctor fits in brilliantly now. Well, that's brilliant. You will smell that staff room, can't you? It's another
Yes.
brilliant set. And David plays this moment so beautifully.
An historic moment.
He's it's like he's meeting a lover again, which I guess is the sort of setup for the episode. And I loved this because of course the thing about Sarah Jane is she was a journalist, and so it was the most obvious way, wasn't it? And Toby
Easy
was
to get her in there and do her
easy
bit,
to get
yeah.
her in to the story. You don't feel like she's shoehorned in any way. It's great. And of course they're talking about John Smith, which I think Patrick Troughton called himself John Smith. He was the first doctor to call himself John Smith as a sort of a bit of a pseudonym. And they always went back to it. When John Pertwee worked for UNIT in the 70s, he was always Dr. John Smith on his UNIT pass. Another little throwback to the past.
And all credit to Toby here. He writes this so beautifully and simply. And
Yeah.
I mean, we knew right from the start that it was going to be such a sort of huge emotional moment for the Doctor when they met, but actually it had to be the most simple moment as well.
Yeah.
He recognises her, she doesn't recognise him, but you still get the sense of her. She still misses him just in
Yeah,
that tiny scene,
absolutely.
which is really
Well, it's like
beautiful.
this scene, you really feel the impact of it on him, and that's so lovely. Now, this next little bit was, this little bit came in quite late, because I think we were worried that the script was underrunning slightly, and I love it. The first glimpse.
I think it's a great.
It's trying to build as well,
Of
build that sense of
Collinson.
menace and something going on, but without revealing too much, you know. So it's a little.
And Joe here comes
Scary.
across as very innocent here. Ooh.
What do you think of your alter ego?
Oh, I think he's so sinister.
I love the bit of saliva he's got in his mouth.
Have I got saliva dripping
He's
out my
ready.
mouth?
You're making
He's
paranoid now.
ready.
Absolutely.
He's ready for a bit of lunch.
Snack on a child.
So this should have been a much more elaborate sequence moving from day to night. We were hoping to do one of those locked off camera things where we sent kids through and just left the camera there for
speed it
6
up.
hours and then
See them
speeded
milling
it up.
around and then,
And we had this was again in our first block, and we had so many problems in our first block, and lots of the episodes were. I think if you heard the podcast for episode 1, you'll have heard us talk a lot about the difficulties we had in this block, and that was one of the sequences that we couldn't film, unfortunately. But it sort of works. It sort of works. It's fine, actually.
I love David Tennant's delivery. He's so fast, so quick.
Yeah, he's great at that, isn't he?
Absolutely.
And this whole, I love this idea, school at night.
Yes, yeah, we're adamant right from the start. If we're
Yeah.
going to be in a school, we have to have a creeping about at night scene.
Yeah.
And a brilliant comment there from Rose that she felt the teachers used to sleep in the school.
Yes.
Yes, setting up a great later scene.
Yeah.
But it's great because you inherit so much again from this setting, because the creepiness of a building that is usually full of people and full of bustle, suddenly being cold, dark, and echoing is worth a lot.
Oh,
There
you
she goes.
see,
Good
she
old
hasn't-
resourceful Sarah Jane.
Good old resourceful Sarah Jane. She's lost none of her resourcefulness. Brilliant. And she can still run.
What is that goo?
I think it's some kind of vegetable oil, actually. Simple as that.
Looks like gel, doesn't it? It's got that gloopy.
I love this moment. Is the best moment in the episode for me. And she sees the TARDIS again. And all credit to James Hawes for this next shot, which I think is just truly beautiful. This shot here that comes round and
Yes,
reveals David
yeah,
behind her.
yeah.
It's gorgeous.
We did-
Absolutely gorgeous.
There are a few variations on that, because I know originally Toby had the TARDIS landing in a it was in a cupboard essentially.
Yes.
In a stationary cupboard. That's
Yes.
right, at the back of a classroom. But
Yeah.
obviously, it doesn't leave much room for this sort of encounter.
Well,
and getting
that-
the
when-
space around them. which
When
is-
we looked round this school, we saw this gym and we knew this was where we
That's
had to
right,
set
yes.
this,
Yeah. I
this
remember James
sequence
saying it was gonna be
because
perfect.
it's so deep. You know, you can really feel the depths of it and the size
Yeah.
of the room.
because it's such a big emotional scene, you don't want to cram
And
it.
how beautifully do they play it? I mean, I just believe it. I think it's wonderful, and you really feel her. She's staggered. I think it's wonderful. And she's annoyed, and she loves him, and it's all working on a million levels.
Oh, we had so many discussions about what this beat was going to be when they finally got the chance to say to each other what for her she's been waiting 40-odd years to say.
And from now on, he's wonderful because they like the Scooby-Doo gang, I think, now. And even when the dog comes in.
With a little bit of friction between these two.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The first sense of that, isn't it?
We always describe this as exactly what Mickey says in a minute, which is it's the missus and the ex-wife.
Yeah. He's great at writing that as well, Toby. He really got that right from the first draft. He got that the fun that he could mine from the two of them.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
They're very emotionally real as well. I mean, they are real characters with real jealousies and emotions. This rats in the cupboard thing, it was something I chatted to Toby about. It happened to my sister at school. That's
What, the
where I got it
rats
from.
fell out
Yeah,
on?
she was sent out of the classroom to go and get a textbook. Opened this cupboard, sort of, shut the doors, opened it, and this huge shower of vacuum-packed rats fell on top of it.
Crikey, because of course
most
you
gothic
did do
moment.
that.
How long
Yeah.
ago? Do they still dissect rats in school?
Not now.
Oh,
As
wow.
I think Rose says to Sarah Jane in this scene.
Yeah, she just said to her then, "We
Back in
don't
the
do
day,
that anymore.
When I was young, we were.
More friction."
But of course, the Actually, we don't see this scene where you get the payoff for the rats, but there was a scene originally, of course, where the staff were in the staff room snacking on rats, like they were digestive biscuits, sticking them in a cup of tea and having a snack, etc. But yes, that's what they're in the cupboard. They're provisions. They're not a biology experiment.
And so now this is our first proper look at the Krillitons, who used to be called Krillians in the first couple of drafts.
In quite a few drafts, in fact. Yeah. And Krillians, lovely name. Krillitons, just as good. But we discovered that, in fact, somebody else got there first with the name Krillian. And, in fact, there are monsters that are actually sort of copyrighted and owned by somebody else. So
we couldn't use them. All our scripts get neg-checked, which means they go through a legal process where kind of people in the legal department look through them and just make sure that all the names we use are not copyrighted to anyone else. So
yes, absolutely.
That's part of the prep process before we shoot. And here he is, K9.
What a moment!
What a moment! So for our K9, we used a chap called Mike Tucker, who used to work on the old series, and he makes all our models and does all our miniature shoots. He had in the original series, they had two K9s. They had one that would whiz around the studio, and then they had a static prop that didn't have any works inside it that they used to lift and carry around everywhere. Because the one that whizzes around is far too heavy to lift up. I mean, it weighs a ton.
I remember we had to make those last-minute changes, didn't we? Because we had scenes where they were sort of walking along with K9 under one arm, etc. That wasn't the
It wasn't possible anymore. Because, of course, we took that prop and made it work and made it whiz around because we thought, well, we'd better have our own prop. And he's beautiful. He's really lovely.
This is a very nice scene.
So we're in a little cafe in the centre of Newport, no? It was a Thursday evening we were here. We were here 2 nights, actually. One night we did this scene, and then the second night we did all the exteriors. And it was the noisiest place we have ever filmed. It was impossible. And drunks coming in and out, walking past, and they absolutely had the time of their life, the drunks of Newport that night. Of course, Anthony was not perched on the corner of that roof, in case anybody's worried.
Like a very valuable actor and put him on a high shelf.
We built a little bit of that set and a green screen in the school car park, actually, and shot him there, and then he's been matted in and pasted on. And
originally, we did, Toby had written, we're going to have a few more Krillians landing on the roof, and then in the sort of trade-off of making sure we had them where we really wanted them, which was later on, then... It became one Krillitane in a rewrite.
Yeah, because with all our episodes, we have to sit down with the people at the mill with the script and break down how much time they've got to spend and how long it's going to take them to do all the special effects work. And with this episode, Anthony's character had wings originally, and there were lots of sequences where his wings came out. And one of the things we had to do was cut that completely. So you get a suggestion that he's a Krillitane, but actually... He did used to have more Krilliton qualities.
It actually was a blessing in disguise, though, because I can remember these long, awkward conversations about if he's got wings, because obviously they sort of unfilled at some points. Did they bust through his shirt like the Incredible Hulk? Yeah. And then what happened afterwards? Did he? Yeah. At one point, I remember saying maybe he should have racks of shirts in his office. Every time he changes, he pops another one on.
Yes. So. Hooray. Oh, look, she's waited so long to have this conversation with him. Of course, the last time he saw her, or almost the last time he saw her, he dropped her off back at what he thought was at home. Hooray! And there's brilliant John Leeson.
Take this moment to say wonderful John Leeson and Phil Collinson at the read-through.
I read The Voice of K9.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was memorable.
Bless you.
People
it was
were
great fun.
I'd
waited all my life to read that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To read that part. I loved it.
I think you basically stopped the room in its tracks.
It was absolutely so.
Ha ha ha. And he sounds a little bit broken. His voice is weaker, and it's brilliant. I love how he's a bit rusty. Although she hasn't looked after him, it's fair to say. Looks like he's had a few kicks.
Could she? Yes.
love how they made that cafe look even, our brilliant art department. Because it was a very bog-standard cafe, and I think just the way it's lit and the red that we painted on the walls behind them and bits of trellis we put up, I just think it looks so wonderful.
That's nice. They got a paint job out of it as well with you turning up.
They got a nice paint job out of it, some nice photographs. And I can imagine after this episode they'll be having a visit from one or two fans, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, it'll be a shrine.
I do hope so, because they were so lovely. Now, is that you, Eugene, up there?
I'm trying to see if he's dark enough.
Is he dark enough?
Yes, because
I
my
love
creature
that
was a
your-
little bit darker.
Yours
than
is
the
a bit
others,
darker than the
which
others.
I think is a
love
brilliant
that.
touch.
Yes.
I was so proud that Doctor Who was promoting equal
Opportunities
opportunities for
in
monsters.
this.
For
Yes,
monsters.
I'm
Oh, yes.
absolutely proud of Doctor Who for that.
Fantastic.
I love the beautiful simplicity of Toby's description of what the Crittertons are when he says they're a composite race, just like, we absorb the cultures of, people who move here or who've invaded
Yes.
Britain. Then they simply go and absorb whatever planet it is they invade.
And
And
they
it's just
cherry
such a...
pick the best bits. I love that line.
Yes.
It's just a great thing about this is it's such a good adventure, I think. But then there's this whole other level to it, which is Rose getting a look at what happens to you, actually, when he leaves you. Because actually, he does leave you. And, he loved Sarah Jane, and they had brilliant adventures together and a great time. And then he left her, and he moved on. And it's kind of
These scenes
unexpected, I think.
very
the
surprising.
drama of that.
We did, these scenes, I don't know how many... Well, we went through a lot of drafts on them just because there's so much to touch on, but equally you don't want him to feel too callous, but neither do you want him to feel mushy, because the fact is he does have more than one
That's what he does, and he
companion,
has to move on.
And they have to move on, and so it did take a lot of finessing to get this feeling right.
Dear God,
Oh,
it was noisy. I can't believe how well it's cleaned up, actually. Look at that. Magnificent. And I think they were reacting to a pole with a bit of green flapping, a bit of green
love
flag
this.
on the top.
In a way, we should be doing a commentary on those are the best bits, when in fact, like in Werewolf, when they're running away from Big Scary Werewolf, and it's, the man in lycra with a twig on his head or whatever.
Yeah. Trying not to laugh.
Yes.
And this is great. This is proper Scooby-Doo now. Look at them all.
Scooby-Doo, I thought the Doctor had turned into John Wayne here.
He expected you to be wearing a holster, didn't you?
Look at the four of them. What a sexy cast. My God.
Poor Mickey.
Poor Mickey.
There's a
Always
nice-
the tin dog.
It's a nice build-up, I think, from Mickey as to what he requests later on of the
Yeah.
Doctor.
Oh, yes, in terms of his, journey.
Great shot.
Yes. Nifty footwork.
Yeah.
That's acting.
Yeah.
That's Michael Jackson.
Speed up. Yeah.
So this was there was Dufferin School in the hall there. And now we're in Fitzallen School again, because Fitzallen had this beautiful pool. And again, once we went on the recce to find it, we knew that this big confrontation would be great to set in here.
Yes,
So that you just get so much bounce of light off the the water there, how it's rippling across their faces, and there's a big distance. You can get a distance with them, opposite each other. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it.
Yes, because this scene was, as written, I think it was in the gym.
It was in the gym, wasn't
and
it?
so,
Yeah.
But this is
See,
such a
look
gift,
how
isn't
that
it, with
shimmers
it?
on him.
Yeah.
It's so very beautiful. And it's just one of the things we try to push in Doctor Who. I think, we try to make it look, even in an episode like this that is very ordinary and in the real world, we try and just heighten that lighting a little bit and, just try and make it look a little bit more beautiful than real life. And I do think, and I've said it before, that when you're channel hopping, you come across something like this and go, oh, that lighting's nice. And you'll stay with it. And there's a beauty about it. Oh, I'm blowing my own trumpet again, aren't I?
It
Never
does look
mind.
good. It's going
want
to
to say.
squaring up to each other.
So, two brilliant actors as well. I love to see that.
I don't know if we ever see it in the episode. Mr. Finch's first name is Hector. I just
Hector
thought the
Finch.
Hector Finch was a beautiful name, but I don't think we ever see the...
No, we don't.
one.
Do we? So, would there have been a real Hector Finch? No, they wouldn't, would they? He's not taken over someone's body, has he? No.
No, oh, sorry, I meant in the real world. I was about to say, no, not as a headmaster. So, No, he was the new headmaster who
He's the
arrived
new- yeah,
to take
of course
over
he
and
was.
turn the school around. And
Of course he was. Oh, he's not happy. Not happy. Look at this.
oh,
This is on the edge now. The dog is sat next to him with its head. I mean, that's brilliant, isn't it?
it's a lovely character beat for Mickey because he's realising that he is the tin dog and he's always the sort of the spare part, and then he does something fantastically heroic in a minute.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
I remember us talking about this scene. This wasn't in any of the earlier drafts, and I remember us saying they've got to have a scene where they talk about what they argue about who one-upmanship and who's had the most dangerous time, who's seen the best monster.
Yeah.
And I remember us sitting there, and I can't remember who it was who said, but she saw the Loch Ness monster, and that's got to be Rose would just love that.
Yeah. How'd you cap that? Yeah.
Even just like I love how they both wear their hair down, and I think what Louisa's put Elizabeth in sort of echoes Rose, isn't it? I think it's so lovely. We showed this scene in our press launch for episode 1. It was one of the things we showed. The biggest laugh of the night was wonderful. It was so funny, and they play it beautifully as well, the two of them. It's one of the last things we did in the block, I think. I seem to remember.
I love the fact that in a minute when the Doctor comes in, it's the fact that they've gone through this scene of kind of open hostility to each other, and by the end of it, they're friends because they've decided to, they've got to get on with it.
They've
But they
bonded
actually
over
find
the
a
Loch
little
Ness
unit.
monster.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, when the Doctor comes in, then they bonded with him out of the room, so he doesn't quite know what's going on.
Yes.
And he's excluded now. What? I just started repeating his lines then. That's fascinating, people, isn't it? I've always wanted to play the Doctor.
Yeah, so there was a
There was a little bit before this
And
where
what
we
happened?
we had a box with real rats in,
yeah.
and a few little lines, but I
Yes, rat snacking.
that's it.
Didn't
exactly.
you had a brilliant line where
I did. I was being offered a rat, and I said, "No thanks. I've gone organic."
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
Right.
Yes.
And someone was asking if there was any of that kid left from yesterday, and I
Yeah.
said no. But there's a bit of that Ofsted inspector behind
Yes,
my drink
behind
in
the
the
fridge.
fridge.
behind the
Yeah.
yackle.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
was,
we did film it, and I do hope it's going to be a DVD extra
that'd
if
be
you get the
wonderful.
box set, because it will be on there, the extended scene, and it's very funny because you had a whole bit of business with
That's
a clockwork rat in a paper
in a
bag,
paper
didn't you?
bag.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's very funny.
Now we kind of
Oh,
go
there
sense
you are.
the episode is moving faster now.
Yep.
They've come to the
There you go.
realization they have to get
massacre
things
in the
moving.
staff room.
I love that scene. The massacre in the staff room. I mean, quite an achievement for the art department, I think, to get that many computers all, because I think each one had to run independently, so that they could get all the, the school logo on it and the whole green cube going round and the Scasis paradigm, as we're about to find out it is, kind of going.
I think, art department and James Hawes, the director, had to do some fairly fancy footwork, didn't they, in terms of
They
getting,
did.
because I know in the script, and I know these things are always easy to type, but we had room after room filled with computers all
Yeah.
flashing away, because
Yeah.
Kenny runs past them at one point, and I think a lot of people would have had heart attacks reading that. And
The kids
Yeah.
weren't actually in the room at this point.
You were on your own,
I
were
was
you?
on my own looking at the camera crew.
Really?
But, we tried. We tried.
Well, we had all sorts of problems
seamless, I
because
believe it.
you can there's quite a tight window that you can work children, and a lot of these children were actually from the school, and we bussed them in every day, and they would
how
come
great
in.
is
And
that,
so,
though? Imagine being in Doctor Who when
how
that.
marvellous is
Absolutely.
that? Can I imagine they'll be all sitting there on Saturday.
The kids get quite a lot of airtime in this.
Yeah, they do. Little Kenny.
Yeah,
Bless
this is
Kenny.
it, yes. Kenny running along, room after room after room, which I think is probably the same room from a slightly different
I
angle.
suspect
with
it
yes.
is. Just a different POV.
Yep.
Different school, probably. So in this in order to do this scene, we had to completely rebuild the front porch of this school, so that we took all the doors out, and we actually had to strip the roof. And as we were stripping the roof, they found some asbestos, so the whole roof then had to be lagged and relined and rebuilt. It was a nightmare to film this. Because again, it's another easy thing to write.
Yes,
Nicky drives the car through the front doors of the school. Easy to
I
type.
think we knew, actually.
Thank you, Toby.
Yeah, exactly.
Very difficult to bring
Yes.
off. Hooray!
K9 to the rescue.
K9 to the rescue. Another brilliant music cue from Murray. The Omen again.
It is very epic and evil, isn't it?
Yeah. We are in a car. It's Gase's Paradigm. That's a
lovely,
brilliant,
that, isn't he? Yeah. He's very good on these sort of slightly sci-fi names, too.
Yeah. Great how you feel the equation bouncing off them there and whizzing round behind them.
And
You
it's that
see all
sense of-
those computers doing the same thing. It's terribly difficult to make happen.
Brilliant.
Again, it's such a beautiful, simple idea at the heart of it. They're using kids as, human microchips, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. It's great. Oh, he's so brilliantly sinister, Anthony, isn't he? And this great moment coming up where you feel the Doctor tempted.
It's almost
to
like
join
Jesus
them.
being tempted by the devil or something.
Yes, it
you know?
is, isn't it? There's a real sense that he's tempted. And brilliant, actually, that Sarah Jane is the person who's the moral one and reminds him that you have to move on and things change and you have to accept that.
Again, this was a moment that we revisited in every draft, actually kind of just refining the parameters of how far he's tempted and how genuine it is, and then what gets him out of it. And it is absolutely right, it's Sarah Jane. It's a moment of realisation for her as well. It's everything happening in the same
I'd
moment.
love to know what Pergamon and Asinta, are they real civilizations?
They're all Toby worlds,
They're
and
all
I'm absolutely
Toby
sure
worlds,
that we'll revisit them with him in some way.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Escape from Pergamon.
Yeah. Look, he's tempted. It's like he's almost hypnotised. And she's talking about herself. It's so beautiful. See, that was their relationship too. It's very lovely. Very clever. So that wasn't there. That was just a wall. And that's a big CGI number that the mill did. There.
Oh, fabulous.
Smashing of the
I
glass.
thought you genuinely chucked a chair.
No.
Genuinely chucked a chair
No,
into screen.
no.
Very unsophisticated about production.
Yeah.
That wasn't
Brilliant
a CGI car, though, was
stunt
it?
there.
That was a.
I'm afraid that was the
Genuinely
real
chucking a car
car.
through a door.
And here we're about to see the big transformation scene.
Absolutely.
Which I
we did a few
just
times.
love.
Getting the right dimensions.
Yeah, those were the
Angles.
funniest days
Ooh.
rushes ever. Hooray! Look, yours is a bit dark.
It is
Yes,
a bit darker,
isn't it? How
Definitely.
magnificent.
That's
and they're
brilliant.
off now. In all their glory. I love this. They're running down the corridor, being pursued by flying monsters.
Yes, we said.
The
This is
teachers
gonna
have
be a
wings.
nice moment.
Brilliant.
Wow.
I
Monsters in
remember
a
us
school.
saying to the mill when we were designing the Collinsons that we wanted them to feel like I forgot the harpies from Jason and the Argonauts. Really
yes.
sort of heavy and wingy and big
Clinging and
teeth
vicious
and
and-
vicious and sort of like baby birds almost with teeth. And that's exactly what we got. I love these.
They're fabulous. I remember lots of conversations about the dimensions of the Krillitons, and do you remember that conversation about how big the corridor needed to be for them to fly
Yes,
down? At one point, it
exactly.
was epic, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
like a wind tunnel or something.
Yeah.
but,
Really.
Well, because of course at one point they
Got one.
were teachers with wings. And
Yes.
so we were going to fly you guys down the corridor, and we talked about doing that and what sort of wiring we'd have. And actually, eventually, we kind of said, well, why don't they just morph into a CGI creature?
I was
Yes,
looking
that's
forward to being hoisted on wires.
Always more fun than it sounds, I think.
I think it is, yes.
Yeah.
Spent 12 hours swinging from a roof with the
And we've
wires.
injured more than one of our actors on a wire rig, I can tell you.
Right, okay.
In rather
Maybe not.
intimate places.
Oh,
Oh, look.
oh, he is beautiful, isn't he?
He's great. Back in this brilliant lab again.
I got to have a little go on K9 when I turned up to filming.
Did you?
Mm,
Driving
had a
him.
little steer of him, so he goes quite fast in straight lines. Not so good on corners, actually.
So this is kind of this sequence I love is just someone with a big knife whacking the door and when you paint the Crillertons in, you really feel the threat of them. And of course they weren't there, so the actors are all reacting again to there being nothing there.
Acting to thin air.
Brilliant. Yeah, of course, Mr. Finch used to be flying along with them in an earlier.
That's right, yes. Again, another great Mickey moment.
Yes. Love the simplicity of this. It all leads to a plug.
Yes, I absolutely love all that high tech, all that
One
beautiful
plug.
imagery, and it's all in one plug.
Of course, we weren't lucky enough to have John on set with us, so various people were reading in for poor old K9.
Was
John
it you?
just came in afterwards. It wasn't me there, no. It wasn't me there. And lovely John Leeson came in afterwards and sort of fitted his voice then in around.
Oh, of course, because the
what
lights
we'd all
have to
had
match
to do.
the
'Cause
lines, don't
one
they?
and-
So-
well, slightly annoyingly, they came along and I wasn't there the first day K9 was on set, and they decided to make his voice flash with his sort of face, the red on his face, which never used to happen, of course, because that binds you into.
Yes, a particular rhythm.
particular
then, so
rhythm.
got it, yeah.
It's a great example of how we save ourselves time sometimes in CGI. That transformation was going to happen in Vision, and then again it was all part of the scaling, slimming down of how much
Yeah.
work the mill had to do. That we did that with kind of shadows, which is much easier to do.
Yes. And also, monsters changing into humans isn't nearly as good as humans changing into monsters. That's the right way round, isn't it?
It's the right way to do it, isn't it? I think this was David's first day with K9, actually. He was so thrilled. I remember him sending me a text saying, I'm on set
imagine,
with
yes.
K9 and I'm Doctor Who. How marvellous is that?
Moments to treasure.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
little brave
it's
K9.
so heroic.
Little hero.
And this was Elizabeth's very first scene. The first day filming on this episode, her first scene.
And this was our first scene as well, doing this. We all had to have 2 suits each.
Of course you did.
because
yeah.
the first one was about to be
Ah, yes, you get it.
splurged.
Blurged.
And we really were being splurged here.
You were, weren't you? You were absolutely doused.
That's why I was standing behind Anthony. So I
You're the
knew-
human shield.
Absolutely, I knew he'd get
Right.
the most of it.
It's a good introduction to Who, though, isn't it? Turn up, wear a nice suit, get covered in
Exactly.
gunge.
Yeah. A lot of discussion again about how we were going to do that sort of the skin smoking, and
That's a good explosion.
it's a great, isn't it? All the mill, bless the mill. Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about how we were going to do that smoking, and at one point again we were going to have pipes running all the way through you so that smoke would come out from your neck, and
Oh,
there's
thank
another
goodness.
thing that
imagine?
when we kind of had to scale down part of the special effects
Because we filmed that kitchen scene very late at night, I remember.
yes. It was all by that stage the schedule was completely up the wall, I seem to remember. And we were literally spending every day rescheduling and reworking out how we were going to finish it, really. The whole of the front of that school was green screens.
Wow.
And if you remember, Helen, this scene used to be the TARDIS was in the wreckage of the school. Do you remember?
That's right, yes.
And we had a brilliant location, which was a building, a BT building, that they were half demolishing. And so we thought, how magnificent. We've got our location for that. We put the TARDIS in it. And then without telling us, they pulled the whole thing down.
Oh.
And so we had to stand back and go, well, where are we going to set this
Oh,
now?
no, oh, no.
which is when we kind of said, well, he sort of moved it, and he's moved it to a park. Because, of course, you want that last scene between the Doctor and Sarah Jane to look like the most beautiful place on Earth.
Yes, yeah.
They've both kind of got a bit of closure now.
We also moved, I think this is right, moved more dialogue into the TARDIS. And so,
yes, we did.
Because having lost that location with the TARDIS on the rubble.
Yes, we did. We did. It was much more of this
inside.
was out there, wasn't it, walking around. Glad we did, because I love that she gets to see inside.
It feels right, doesn't it?
How
It feels like she's
different
coming home and...
Elizabeth was terribly impressed. She said theirs used to be tiny, the TARDIS they had when she was playing Sarah Jane before.
Yes, they've had the decorators in now, haven't they?
And they've had
everything's upgraded a bit with them.
Yes, yeah. Great line. And of course, Mickey's going to go. And look at Rosie's face. She's not happy.
It's a happy accident.
It is, isn't it? Not happy. She's not happy. Oh, made me cry this when they filmed it. You've got to stop and hear her say that. It's a brilliant line.
Oh.
And they hug and they like each other, and she closes her eye. Oh, I just think it's perfectly great.
There's such a sense of kind of literally maturing, the whole kind of series maturing in this episode, just because it gives it a perspective, a time perspective that it hasn't had before, and having to make that decision about, do I stay with him even I know there's going to be a terrible price to pay in some way. It's
and they get proper closure now, and she's walking away happier, and that's brilliant, I think. We were so lucky with this day because the weather was beautiful, and the light on her hair and on the side of his face, and that park's perfect.
It feels very like spring and things starting again, doesn't it? Which is nice for this.
Beautiful. Sort of... The most beautiful day, early September, it was.
Because it would have felt very different if it was kind of grey and overcast and rainy and
it
miserable.
would have been very different.
Yeah.
So something optimistic about it. And of course, right in the middle of a park, racks of spectators watching us film this.
There's hardly any way you can go though, is there? It's,
no, as usual.
To be private. That'd be so important as well, because you don't want her, when she says, I haven't thanked you. I mean, that was something we discussed, that she should actually thank the Doctor for the experience she's had. So,
So you know that she's moved on.
Yes. Oh, going over that.
And he's left her a present.
Oh, hooray! K9
Which, of
lives.
course, is the second K9, and actually the original prop, operated by Matt Irvin, which is the original K9 that moves and it has been completely kind of adapted now, and he's brilliant. I mean, he just whizzed around that terrain, and it was so rocky, and I did sit back and kind of think, oh, why didn't we use you from the word go?
Well, and also
And
remember that in
go.
earlier drafts of this episode, we completely killed him. He didn't turn up at the
He
end.
did, and actually, what happened was we Julie and I had to have a meeting with Bob Baker or Dave Martin, I forget which one, but Bob Baker and Dave Martin were the creators of K9. They came up with the idea of the Doctor having this robot dog way back, and so we had to have a meeting with them and talk about the script, and they said, well, the only thing we feel is we're a bit sad you've killed him at the end. And I said to Russell, I'm gutted, and I think you'd said the same, hadn't you, that he died, and actually I was so thrilled when we I
remember watching Ben Cook from Doctor Who magazine actually sort of flicking through the script at the start of a production meeting, and at one point he stopped and his mouth fell open and he looked around him, and I knew exactly which bit he'd got to, and he said, "You killed K9."
Yeah.
And everyone had that reaction.
I'm glad we didn't. Was that your first podcast, Eugene?
It was.
And how did you find it?
The two of you made me feel very welcome. I feel so at home here.
Do you not find I watch TV like this at home? I sit there chatting away over it, talking
Well, it's
back
the
to
best.
it.
I know I had the best training in the world, because that's how we used to watch TV at home.
Yes,
Even
yeah,
still,
exactly.
I sit with my
Shouting at the
parents
screen
and I'm like,
yeah.
Well, excuse me, but we watch TV in silence.
It's a reverent process in
Yes.
the Washington household.
I think it is.